Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again, and we're still in March of the Machines in the main set. Hopefully, Daybreak Games will get the Commander decks online as soon as possible. I can go back to talking about some of the Commander specific cards, or at least we'll see some of them appear, so keep your eyes out for any future videos. But today's one is going to be about one of the main set cards, so please hit the subscribe button. At the end of the video, hit the like button. If you are going to hit the dislike button at the end of the video, please leave me a comment and tell me why you disliked the video so I can hopefully improve as I go along. But, you know, I'm really hoping you just hit the subscribe button so you can come back and see if I've improved after your feedback. So, today's video is this card. Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, 2 double white for a 4/4 legendary enchantment creature god. And when Heliod Radiant Dawn enters the battlefield, you return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. And then you can pay 3 and a Phyrexian blue to transform into Heliod, the Warped Eclipse. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Spells you cast cost 1 less for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. Now, I'm going to be honest about something here. This is the second time I've recorded this video today because I really made a boo-boo earlier and missed something entirely important with this deck. So I'm correcting that now by redoing this and redoing the video. Yeah, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn, and they have flash. You can play lots of very free and very cheap artifacts with this deck, and that's basically what we're doing. So without me talking anymore, let me show you what I've built for this card. Anyway, let's talk about the land. The land base is very simple. Blue-white lands all the way through. Nothing fancy. Because we've got, in comparison to some of my other decks, a reasonably low creature count in here. I am gone down the Emeria Sky Rune route, so that's why we've got things like the floodplain, idyllic beachfront, and a whole load of plains a little bit further down to make sure we can get to the 7. But that's not the key thing I'm worried about in the deck. What I'm worried about is having to recast Heliod if we get destroyed. It's not destructible like some of the other gods have been in the past, so we've had to go a bit heavy. So we've got Tantalite, Talisman, Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, because you know it is possible to get them out on turn 1, which is quite good fun. Mana Vault, Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Progress, Palladium Mirror, Solemn Simulacrum are all my ramp. That's why it's all here. But we are really keen on this card because what we want to do is make our opponents draw cards, so our spells become cheaper, and then as things become cheaper they cost 1 less to cast, and that means artifact creatures get very good in this deck because you can pay them for virtually next to nothing at flash speed, and that can confuse some people. So I haven't gone completely overboard with it. I think you can. I think it's going to be one of the better commanders from the new set once it eventually releases and people start playing around with it. I know the pre-releases are going on at the moment, but hopefully this will become really good very shortly. But what we're going to be looking at is this today. So we're going to control the board a little bit to start with Authority of Consuls, a little bit of life gain, slow down our opponents. Mystical Tutors here just so we can go get something we might need very quickly, you know, like Cyclonic Rift springs to mind. And Elixir of Immortality, just so we can shuffle everything back in when, you know, we've drawn so many cards that we need to recycle it and keep going. Obviously, we do have a way out of that if we need to have it. So, we are looking at the Cyclonic Rift I mentioned. Fairy Mastermind is one of the new cards from March of the Machine. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Yeah, seems like a sensible plan to me. Considering we can force our opponents to draw cards in some situations, that should mean we get this up to being, you know, us drawing cards quite quickly. You know, Folio Fancies is one way of forcing our opponents to draw cards, which is quite nice to play. Ominous Seas means we can start getting Krakens with all the cards we're going to be drawing. Search for Cancer, just so we can manipulate it off our library when we get there. Triskaidekaphile is one of our win conditions. I think there's a possibility we do end up with 13 cards in our hand at some stage in the game, and therefore we can just hold on to them and win that way, which would be quite nice. Counterspell and Mana Drain, just so we can control a little bit of what's happening around us. Crane Itinerant Meddler is also here. Everyone draws a card. Everyone who draws a card, we gain a life. You know, helps everybody out. People tend to leave the little rabbit wizard alone for some reason. But in this deck, it can be quite tricky and dangerous, especially since, you know, Reliquary Tower is here to make sure we can get up to the 13 quite happily. And Swiftfoot Boots is here just to protect Heliod. Like I said, Heliod's not indestructible in this deck, so we need some way of doing it. And don't forget, if we've got it flipped and people are drawing cards, we can cast these off. All the artifact things here can come in for free occasionally. Right, Lauren of the Third Path. I'm really pleased that white now has this effect. Having a sort of like a white version of Reclamation Sage, yes, it is legendary, but you know, it's got vigilance and we can tap it and everyone draws one. So, well, you and opponent draw one anyway, so I quite like that. Teferi's Protection, just to protect the board when we get there, obviously for obvious reasons. And the monetary value of this deck is all made up in Time Twister. You can drop this card entirely. I just wanted it one way of doing it on MTGO so that I know that our opponents, if we've got 3 opponents in play, there's 21 cards drawn, which I think, if I'm reading this correct, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. So basically, everything just goes down to the coloured mana costs in our deck. And a lot of the artifacts literally become free if we can get Time Twister to work. So, you know, that's why it's in my MTGO deck. It won't be in my real life deck because I don't own one of these in real life. Dictate Crucifix is usually a card I play at the end of the player's turn before the start of my turn, just to make sure I get the benefit of it. But we want our opponents to be drawing cards, so the earlier we can play this, the better. Likewise, Jace Beleren, or Party Jace if you prefer. Make sure that everyone draws one, so at least it reduces the cost of everything we're going to do for the rest of that turn by, with 3 opponents, 3, 2 or 1, depending how we look at it, but it's still a cost reduction, which is quite nice. Cultivator's Caravan is only here because hopefully, you know, people will draw 3. We get to play Mana Ramp for free, so it's like an extra land maybe. Same with Palladium Mirror, apart from we just have to wait for the Summoning Sickness to roll off. But if we do it in someone else's turn, because we're doing the flash side of things, it does mean we get a mana bump in at the beginning of ours. Cast Out is one of the few enchantments that might come back from Heliod coming into play, because we've probably cycled it. Mangara, just so we can make sure we're drawing some cards when people attack us, and because we are giving people all these extra cards to draw, they probably are going to be casting 2 spells a turn, so that gives us a card draw. Phyrexian Metamorph gets to copy something, and it probably gets to copy one of the artifacts, I'll be honest. Wheel of Deal is another way of making everyone, you know, apart from us, draw 7, so you know, we get the cost down, but it's instant speed, which is nice. Bident Athasa means that when our few creatures we have got their attack, we get to draw. Supreme Verdict controls the board. Solemn I've mentioned. Wiretapping, just so we can get the 9 cards in our hand and then flip it on the combat, which is quite nice. Not combat, upkeep. Apologies, misread that one. Whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. Then if you have 9 or more cards in hand, you flip it. Or you play the exiled card. That's fine. Magus of the Jar just gives us another way of making everyone draw 7 so we can get the cost reduction on a turn. Teferi's Teferi, we all know what it does. And Platoon Dispenser is in the deck because 9 times out of 10 it comes down for free. And paying the 4 mana to produce some soldiers is really quite good fun. Beacon of Immortality I've kept in. I haven't played it for a while. I wanted some way of making sure I had something that kept shuffling back into my deck. And doubling my life total up in this deck with so few lands sounded like a really good idea to me. So, you know. Farewell controls the board and gets rid of everything that's annoying us. Well of Ideas gives us a couple of cards when it comes into play. And then at the beginning of each other player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. And at the beginning of our draw step, we draw 2 additional cards. So, you know, it's all good fun. Helps us make sure that everyone gets the cost. We get the cost reduction going every so often. And Consecrated Sphinx just means we draw more. Force Fruition is a really nasty way of making sure our opponents draw out. And I have seen this card basically make sure everyone gets milled out very quickly because they are drawing so many cards and they've got no way of dealing with it. So you do become a bit of a target when this comes in play. Be aware of it. Steeled Seraph, Wormcoil Engine, and Platinum and Angel are all here just to take advantage of the cost reduction that we get from our wonderful commander over here of Heliod. Yeah, I just quite like Seraph anyway. I quite enjoy playing this in Commander, and it can get it down cheaper. You can play the prototype side of it if you need to, and if it gets kills off, hopefully shuffle it back in Valexa and play the bigger version. But yeah, you can make your opponents draw cards, so you should be able to get them to get the whole lovely cost reduction going. Bear it in mind. Right, moving on. Ancient Gold Dragon. We needed another big creature, I figured, to try and win the game. If we can get the damage in, get the fairy tokens, we'll be away. Jingataxus will probably be costing us 2 blue mana most of the game, which will upset our opponents, and we get to have our whole, counter everything. Nexus of Fate, just to buy us a turn if we need it. Emergency power, so we can shuffle everything into our hand, graveyard, shuffle that hand and graveyard into the library, draw 7, then we exile this. Hopefully we'll play it in our main phase and put something with mana value 7 or less onto the battlefield, which could be Memnarch. Memnarch is one of those cards that goes back in the day to Darksteel. People forget that it existed. But with the amount of artifacts we have running around in Commander after Brothers War, paying 4 mana to nick one of them and gain control of it, because we gain control even if Memnarch goes, seems like a really good plan to me at the moment. Legion Loyalty, because I just like Myriad, and I'm still trying to make it work. Even it does mean that we have a lot of tokens doing it. It's better than nothing, but a myriaded set of dragons would be quite good, especially Ancient Silver Dragon for all the card draw we can have. Spotter Thopter is also here. Get to scry and do its power. Again, another card I'm hoping we cast for 0. Going a little bit further on, Phyrexian Triniform, again another card I hope we don't have to pay any mana for, or very minimal amount of mana. Same with Darksteel Colossus and Metalwork Colossus. I could have put Blightsteel Colossus in instead of Metalwork, but I didn't want to be that player at the moment. But the last few I want to draw your attention to is really around this. You may cast spells though they had flash. We all know that. And spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. If you can make your opponents draw lots of cards in a turn, you are going to be hitting these X spells very rapidly, because Secure the Waste, Grand Crescendo, White Sun's Twilight, which, if you're going to cast a couple of these, make sure that you cast this one first to blow the board up, because I have, this is quite easy in this deck to cast this for 2 white and X is equal to 7 because of all the free side of things we get from here, And if you do that, that does blow all the other creatures up. It leaves you a load of might tokens, don't get me wrong. But make sure you cast this first, because at the end of the day, having all those toxic creatures around and then backing up with, say, something like Waste, Crescendo, White Sun, Zenith for the cat guys is fantastic. And it does work properly. So just bear that in mind. But anyway, that is the end of today's deck tech. That is my take on Heliod, the Radiant Dawn. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're going to leave me some comments and feedback down below. Please do. It really does help me out and helps me improve the videos as we go along. Thanks for watching. There's a link also down below to my Twitch channel. Come and see me over on Twitch. As soon as I can get these cards on MTGO, we'll be playing these games. As I record this video, I know that I'll definitely be streaming a draft of the new set on Thursday night of this week, so bear that in mind if you're looking at the date. That will probably go up as a stream replay at some stage. You'll be able to see how I do. But thanks for watching, take care, and hopefully I'll either meet you on Twitch soon, or you'll be back leaving me comments on the YouTube videos going forward. Thanks, take care, bye.